Let me tell you a story. I was about 5 or 6 at the time, and I've never owned a Nintendo DS before. Yet, present me holds a lot of nostalgia for a few DS titles. This is because, at some point in my early life, I got to play on someone else's DS.
Oh my god.
I think this happened at some kind of program I attended, maybe. I don't know, the memories are still foggy. Anyway, whoever owned this DS had a lot of games downloaded onto it, and I have some fond memories of playing some of them. Super Mario 64 DS, the chain chomp scared me. Sonic Rush, which is a little odd because this was during my phase where I was terrified of Sonic for some reason. That's a whole other discussion. Yoshi Touch and Go. And most importantly, Mario Kart DS. This was easily the game that caught my interest the most. I don't know what it was, but there was just something about the game that hooked me. Maybe it was the track selection. People do often praise it for being one of Mario Kart's best, and yeah, I agree. There are so many bangers here, like Airship Fortress, Luigi's Mansion, Tick-Tock Clock, Peach Garden. However, the track that easily caught my attention the most was none other than Waluigi Pinball. Okay, so first of all, seeing that name followed by the very pixelated but still very cool image of a pinball rolling while a Lord and Savior Waluigi watches all was just mind-blowing, and I wasn't even playing on the damn track yet. Not to mention, the track itself certainly exceeded my expectations. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before. This track is sure to be an all-time classic and make Mario Kart history. Okay, so the dirty little secret about this track is that it happens to be one of the most divisive tracks I've seen in Mario Kart, in recent years anyway. Why is that? I could have sworn opinions on this track were generally a lot more positive a few years back. What happened? Hopefully all that and more will be answered in this video, an analysis on Waluigi Pinball, the track that fell from its grace. But before that, okay, so there's one thing I need to quickly mention before we get into this. Opinions are just opinions. Everyone has them, and they're almost always different. I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea of this video. I'm not trying to force you guys to like things. I just wanted to make this video to see what makes this track so divisive among fans. Speaking of which, why don't we start off by going over this track's layout. I'm sure everyone knows how this track goes by now, but I'll explain nonetheless. You start off by driving straight into Waluigi's RGB decorated cannon, launching you to the top of the table. You then make a large left U-turn with the option of drifting outside for some boost panels or staying inside for some items, leading you to a ramp into the main road. This ramp is trickable in all installments after DS. This green road section is typically pretty eventless, other than being pretty wavy in nature. However, by the second lap or so, giant pinballs start rolling down on the track with the racers. In case it wasn't obvious already, hitting them is a bad idea. You'll continue following these pinballs until you reach this big jump across a gap. The racers are more often than not gonna make it, but the pinballs just fall. You then spiral to the right while being surrounded by yet another pinball before it jumps onto the track as well. From Mario Kart 7 onwards, the end of the spiral has a boost panel on it. One crazy dip downwards, and yet another spiral later, you're set onto the main pinball table. It's a massive sloping road with bumpers everywhere and high voltage flippers at the end. Now on the first lap, it's never usually that bad in any games, but it's a whole different story when the pinballs get involved. Now it's just a clusterfuck of pinballs being flung left, right, and center, and I dig it. If that's too much for you, however, you can always stick to the sides of the table and take the secret baby route instead. However, it's a lot slower than just going through it normally. Past the flippers and 2 left turns later, we're back where we began to start the next lap or finish the race. Already, there's like a lot happening here. And to think this is running on a DS of all things. And yet it was too underpowered to handle the shortcuts in the double dash stages. A soul for a soul, I guess. Okay, so I'm not going to spend that long on this section since it isn't nearly as important, but I just wanted to bring up the music somewhere in this video. I don't know what it is, but something about this song just screams high-tech pinball table colonized by the Brit, I mean Waluigi. Just have a listen for yourself. And that was my excuse to gush about the Waluigi Pinball theme for like 30 seconds. You're welcome. Waluigi Pinball, in my opinion at least, is one of, if not the most well-themed track in all of Mario Kart. Let's just inspect a little closer, shall we? The part at the beginning where you're getting shot up to the top of the track? That's meant to replicate a pinball launcher on a real-life pinball table. In fact, basically all of the track replicates a real-life pinball machine while putting that classic Mario Kart spin on it. To this day, it still stands as one of Mario Kart's most novel concepts for a track. Although I'm sure the competition isn't really that heated with competitors like Yoshi Falls. I like the added detail of the rails and the pinballs always being visible from the sidelines until the pinballs get personal and drop onto the track. I'm pretty sure it's time to where you will almost always see a pinball drop in a normal race at least once. So thankfully we aren't having another Mario Kart 7 Calamari Desert incident. Not only are you racing along with the pinballs, you are the balls! You got flung around by the bumpers, flipped by the flippers, and my favorite detail, when you go past the flippers and hear this. This is meant to represent the losing sound effect when a pinball falls into the hole in a pinball machine, leaving it to die in a ditch. Now that's just the cherry on top. Oh, and did I mention the other custom sound effects for item roulettes and using boost panels? Now that's a double cherry on top. Safe to say, Waluigi Pinball is thematically flawless. Well, that's all my praises out of the way. Now for the ugly part.
Why are you so fucking negative all the time?
What?
Okay, so there's a little problem here. As I'm sure you've picked up by now, I'm personally on the more positive side of Waluigi Pinball, and I don't really see the hate, so I thought, hey, why don't I just contact people who do? And thankfully, I've got a good chunk of friends who have some choice words for this particular track. I'll be showing their quotes on screen if you want to fully read through all of them, but I'll just go ahead and give the general summary of what they said. First up is my pal Flowcrow. He basically just says that the track is too uneventful to be considered one of Nintendo's all-time greats. In short, overrated. Get ready, because we're most likely going to see that word a lot going forward. Next is Godzillasaurus Rex, also going by Spampton. He simply puts that the only reason people like it is because it's themed after Waluigi. I feel like he could have went a bit more in depth there, but whatever. Then comes 867, a Mario Kart YouTuber, so he should be a natural at this stuff. He actually believes that Waluigi Pinball is not a bad track, but is overhyped. Going over some of these bullet points, he says it's carried by its theme, the pinball section is too easy, the remake in 8 in particular didn't really add anything, and the music in 8 is just ripped from Mario Stadium. About that last point, yeah, they shared the same theme in DS, but Mario Kart 8 kinda had a thing going where there were no repeating track themes until Waluigi Pinball came along, which is just really disappointing. Plus the 8 remix is infinitely inferior to the original. Kerbo says, Brad, put this message in the video and I'll free your grandma from the basement. Somebody let her out. Okay, in all seriousness, he just comments on the lack of shortcuts and how the 8 version is disappointing. Likewise with 8, the 7 version being overrated and the original actually being pretty good. Pretty agreeable in my eyes. Your Local Mario also touches on the lack of shortcuts, as well as the only real obstacles being balls. My buddy Toad Duck actually goes into a lot of detail with his review. Much like 8, he says that Waluigi Pinball isn't bad, just not S-tier worthy. He lists all the positives and negatives. However, the negatives are pretty much a ditto to 8's, and the positives are pretty much the ones I listed earlier. I'm sure you can see how this is all starting to blend together. Ouija Morrow is up next, saying, "It sucks because I said so." Well, I don't know how I could argue with that. Mr. DS over here gives us a simple list of issues, and they're also pretty much like 8's and Toad Ducks, don't look at that one. Good Old Gaming has provided us with a slideshow as to why Waluigi Pinball sucks. This is very satire, be warned. Pay attention, class. Moving on, name user says it's bad. And finally, I've saved the best for last. F7 Jin, who has provided us with this wondrous video to watch. Let's have a look.
And welcome to my freaking cold garage. Now you might be wondering, hey, why is there a pizza box here? Well, let me tell you, it's my trusty pizza box of shame. Whatever I put on it, shame on it. Shame on this game. So, it has a little track called Waluigi Pinball, and a lot of people like this track. I'm not a lot of people, but in this version of the game, I think it's okay. I think snaking works really well with the controls. I think, the massive, like, pinball table at the very end, and snaking, it works really well together. It makes, like, a frantic ending, and, man, I am so cold here. But my hate for Waluigi Pinball lives on because of this game, Mario Kart 7. I don't have the case for it. I hate myself for that. So, Mario Kart 7, it doesn't have snaking, but they didn't add anything to the track to actually make anything special. So, it just is very boring. But it does have really nice music and has a nice visual, so it's not the worst thing in the world. It's better than freaking Ice World. Gosh! So, but Nintendo made a mobile game. Now, Mario Kart Tour. I don't like how it looks. And when really the only good thing about how it looks from the last game is what I liked about it, that's kind of a problem. So, you know, it's not good. But to be fair, neither is Mario Kart Tour. But what happens if you put a mobile version of the track into an HD console game? Now, you got my least favorite thing from the game. Thanks. It even is worse than freaking Ice World. Thanks.
Honestly, 10 out of 10 video, I am in tears, this track now sucks. So surely you've been noticing a pattern with all of these complaints. Keyword is overrated. And man, I've just heard that term used so much by now that it's just null and void to me. This track in particular I feel gets called overrated so many times by now that it somehow loops back around to now being underrated. Shout out to gaming for that one. You see, this is why I think we should replace the words under and overrated with cooler words like Gringill and Giant Gringill. In conclusion, man, Waluigi Pinball talk just isn't fun anymore. You really can't talk about the stage without having to throw hands. It's almost as bad as Paper Mario Discourse. And you do not want to be like Paper Mario Discourse. I don't know, man, this stuff just tires me. I miss the old days where I could just say this track is good and no one would bat an eye. I suppose I will agree that the 8 version is easily the worst version. There's no anti-gravity, the music is reused. It's an overall disappointing remake. Hell, hot take, but the design here fucking sucks. It's not Mario Kart 8's fault though, it's Mario Kart Tour's. With that context, I suppose the whole Las Vegas direction makes sense since Tour is about Super Mario in real life, but man, this was supposed to be a giant pinball machine in the middle of nowhere. I want to feel like I'm about to waste tokens, not my money. Even with all that said, 8 Deluxe Waluigi Pinball is still an S tier track in my opinion. It just could have been a much higher S if it evolved over time, but no, we just can't have nice things. I feel like most of this is the booster course pass's fault. I mean, think about it. When Waluigi Pinball was remade for 7, not much had to change other than adding a glider to the first part, which on its own barely adds anything. Then Nintendo makes a mobile game and decides to add Waluigi Pinball to that, remaking it with the stinky Las Vegas look and everything and not adding much again because phone. Now enter the Booster Course Pass, the DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that's literally just tour assets sloppily put into 8's engine. Why fucking who? With this, the devs changed absolutely nothing about the track and just plopped it in as it is. Can you see why this disappoints me so much? So yeah, there you have it. That might be how this track fell from its grace. Or it might not, I don't know. Maybe people are just calling it bad just to be different. It's like Sir Musty said that one time.
It's overrated! Shut up! You're all lying! You all think being different is a personality trait, okay? It's not. It's not. No one likes you. You have no friends, and it's weird, okay? It's weird that you just don't like things that everyone else likes, alright? That's all it is. You're just being different. Make a YouTube video about it. At least you get some fucking clicks, huh?
Anyways, that'll be about it for this video. I'm not sure how well this is gonna do compared to my last video like this, since that was a more silly topic and this one's a bit more serious in comparison. The only way it could get popular is if a super well-known content creator with a big fan base were to shout it out on his social media. Okay, but seriously, I'm still in awe that that even happened. Like, what? Unfortunately, that's never gonna happen again, so I'm on my own now. My fish ranking was way longer than I was anticipating it to be, so I wanted to make a shorter video this time around, as well as addressing the big split in the Mario Kart community that I've noticed. Credit to all these people for sharing their opinion for this vid, and Golden, Omeg, and KFC Stealth for getting some of the footage shown. Please consider leaving a like and especially consider commenting. I love reading my comments, unless there's like 10,000 nerd reactions telling me I fucked up. Guys, I'm well aware I fucked the urchins, jellyfish, and sea cucumbers up, okay? Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in my next project. Later!